In this video, I will show you the questions that you need to answer when completing the Skilled Worker Visa online form. If you want to complete your form in one sitting, then it's best if you have all the information with you, such as your passport and certificate of sponsorship. But if you don't have those and are just curious what the Home Office asks in your form, then watch this video to the end. I will show you an actual application form, but with the personal information redacted. So, okay, follow me along. The first part of the form is your personal information, and when you travel to the UK, what date you plan to arrive. And many people are stuck with this question. It doesn't really matter what date you insert there, but bear in mind that it will take a few weeks for your application to be processed, depending on whether you plan to buy the super priority service or priority service. But few weeks or a month into the future is about right. If you can see the personal information questions continue, and if you're confused about whether or not you have ever known by another name, this applies only if you have recently married and have been using your single name. So if you are now called in your married name, then insert your maiden name, and yeah, that's how you would answer that question. So next is the personal information questions. Continue. Nothing to discuss there. It's quite straightforward. Just ask about your address and your nationality and whether or not you own your home. Okay, this part asks about your contact details. Take care when completing your contact details and make sure that you provide the Home Office with your correct contact number. You don't want them to contact you and you give them the wrong contact details, so you'll have problem with in case they try to call you and ask you to provide more information about your application. Now, this spouse or partner details questions will only come up if at the start you've selected your marital status as married. But if you are single, then this question will not come up, and so this will be irrelevant. And on the form, you need to provide your parents' details, such as when they were born and country of nationality. And don't worry if you don't remember their date of birth or date of birth. Then just give an estimate of the year or the date itself. And if they have already passed away, you still need to insert their details, unfortunately. So just because you say, oh, my mother or my father has already passed away, doesn't mean you don't give their details. Still give the details. But if you don't know, because you don't know, or you forgot when they were born, you forgot their place of birth, for example, then don't worry about it. Just insert what you know. So here, if you have a temporary address, so it asks, do you know where you will be staying in the UK in the address? If you have a temporary address for the time being, you still need to insert that address. And what you can do is you can just include in your cover letter and explain that this address is a temporary and that you will find a suitable accommodation once you are settled in the UK. So this question here, travel history, UK, if you've never been to the UK in the past, then, you just say no. Then the rest of the questions will not, it will prompt you to go to another question. But if you have, then these questions will come up, like, how many times have you been to the UK and so on, and date you arrive. And what I can say about this question is that if you have been to the UK, again, you take care when answering this question, because if you have been to the UK but you don't disclose it, for example, it could be that you don't want to disclose it because you overstayed, for example, then that will be a bad decision not to disclose it, because if the Home Office discovers that you have been to the UK and you have not disclosed it, then you can get refused and banned from entry for deception. So it's important that you tell the Home Office, and if you can't remember any of the details, just again write in your cover letter to say, I've been to the UK, but I don't know, I can't remember what it was, and so on, and I don't have the remaining details. And here, this question again relates to the travel history, and my suggestion, strong recommendation would be for you to read this carefully and make sure that none of this applies to you, or if it applies to you, for example, you've been to the UK, you've overstayed for a year or two in many years ago, you still have to disclose it. It's better to disclose it and explain carefully why you overstayed than try to hide that you were in the UK and you overstayed, because they do check the details and check the data, and if they discover that you have been to the UK but you did not include it in your application form, then that can be a ground for refusal. So travel history for other countries. So check your passports for your travel history in the last 10 years, because it asks about the 10 years, not just the last 5 years, but 10 years. And here it's, it continues and it asks whether or not you're involved with war crimes. So read the guidance, read it carefully and answer as appropriately. And here, convictions and other penalties. If you have none of these, then fine. But if, as I mentioned before, that you have been to the UK and you overstayed or have had in the past civil penalty, then you need to disclose it. Very important to disclose it. Otherwise, if none of this applies, then absolutely fine and continue. So this application where it says extra information, you also need to if there is anything that you need to explain in your application, then this is the part where you do it. But I would strongly recommend that you just write in this space. Please see my cover letter for further details, so that they will look at your cover letter, and it's best to put them all in there instead of just writing it on the space. You can also write it on the space, but my recommendation would be to write separately a cover letter explaining, for example, there is something that you need to explain about your travel history or about your accommodation or whatever it is. It's best that you include a cover letter. So this is the end, and the end is the education and documents, what mandatory documents that you need to provide. It actually lists there. So that is the end of the form, and it's quite straightforward. And for those who are interested in applying for skilled worker visa, for example, you really want to go to the UK to work and apply for skilled worker visa, please email me help@doityourselfimmigration.online for more details about how you can find an employer, how you can check if you have the right qualification or right work experience that will allow you to get an employer to come to the UK. So that's it, and I hope that this video has been helpful. Please subscribe and click like as well if you prefer. Thanks for watching. Bye.